Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're actually going to go over how to play Line Strike and what I have learned of the Line Strike game mode. Hopefully get you guys, or get your foot in the door of just starting to play this wonderful game mode. Honestly, I'm blown away about how much fun I've actually had with this. I haven't really jumped into it too far. Card games aren't really my forte, so it's not something that I personally was super excited for. But the time I have spent with it has been a blast, and I'll give my in-depth thoughts in probably tomorrow's video. But before I jump that, as always, if you're new here, my name is Chrono. I primarily cover PSO2 content. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we work our way towards that 10K mark, hopefully by the end of this year. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So I'm going to start this off. I had a comment on yesterday's video about, Line Strike. If you click on Ask About Line Strike, pro tip, it's probably a meme, but let's do it anyway. Line Strike rules, Line Strike decks, battle formats, ask about card scratch tickets. So we know about card scratch tickets, the rules for Line Strike. Let's see what they go over here. Okay, it's just the pop that you usually get here. Line Strike is a card game in which players do battle by placing cards into a field, comparing the total value of their cards in each vertical line of the 3 squares. The game board consists of sets of vertical columns of 3 squares. These columns are referred to as lines. At the end of the turn, the player with the highest total attack on a line earns the right to attack. Each line has a base with HP. The attacker deals 1 to 3 points of damage to the enemy base equal to the number of friendly forces on that line. Once the HP is reduced to 0, that base is destroyed. The first player to destroy 2 enemy bases wins. Kind of like the format of of Mining Rig, except you have to destroy only 2 bases instead of all 3. When the game starts, players draw 5 cards from their decks as their starting hand. Players may redraw their starting hand once if they wish. Note, you don't actually get to see what your starting hand is again to accept it. After you do a redraw, that's it. You just accept the hand, so it goes in. Starting from the second turn, players draw 1 card from their decks in addition. When the base is destroyed, draw 1 card. I actually didn't know this. When a base is destroyed, draw a card. When one of your bases or one of the enemy bases are destroyed? Or is it each of you draw a card when a base is destroyed in general? We'll double check that. Placing a card into the field is referred to as summoning. Summoning consumes PP. Players may summon any number of times in a turn, provided they have the PP. Card PP costs vary. At the start of a turn, players receive 3 PP. Up to 10 PP may be carried over to the next turn. So you can save 10, up to 10 can be carried over. So at max, I guess you can have 13. When placing cards on the field, instead of placing them on open squares, players may also place them on top of other cards they have already placed themselves. This is known as overwrite summoning. As long as the new card is of the same element and also a greater PP cost than the card on the field, you may override it by spending the difference in cost PP wise, right? So this is something that I actually struggled to understand at first, and had I read this, it would have made more sense. So reading, very nice. But essentially, if you summon a card cost, let's say it's a card cost 1, and then you want to summon something like, actually they show perfect. Yeah, card cost 1. You want to summon Echo, which is card cost 4 or 4 PP. If you summon Echo over top of this card, or this 1 PP cost card, it only costs 3 PP to summon it because it's 1, or it takes the 1 away from the actual overall amount. So cost 3, you have 3 PP. 4 is usually the amount. Subtract that 1, it's 3. So very simple. Any active effects on the field card do not carry over to the new card. So if like there's an effect that's playing over and over or whatever, or an effect that happens that consistently stays on the field, that one doesn't carry over, it does go away. Some of the cards, oh, did I know they don't mention this? Okay, yeah. So when you overwrite summon, by the way, you banish the card, so it goes away, by the way. So you don't like get this back in your hand or anything like that. It's just poof, gone. Some cards have skills. There are 3 types of skills: support, disrupt, and passive. Support cards strengthen your allies, and disrupt cards weaken your opponents. Then these cards are placed into, or when these cards are placed into the field, they activate only once, with support cards activating first, then disrupt cards activating. Passive skills are always active and have effects such as increasing attack power by number of allies. So Xeno gets increased attack power by number of people he has around him. When you cast this is Maria. Yeah, Maria does a debuff on those specific squares they show off, and then Echo does buffs on those specific squares. It only happens 1 time. If a card attack is reduced to 0 while placed on a field due to disrupt skill, otherwise it becomes incapacitated. While incapacitated, the card may not participate in attacks. Its passive skills are inactive. However, it can still be used to override summon another card onto it. If a card's attack increases to 1 or greater when it's capacitated, it's restored. So you can reduce it all the way down to 0, basically making the card essentially useless. Doesn't really do anything unless you override summon it, unless you can just, of course, take off these or buff it back up to being, there again. Usefulness here would just be like, let's say you have 2 cards here, this gets reduced to 1 and you're still winning the trade here. They're only taking 1 point of damage as opposed to 2 points, so pretty useful there. Take a look at Line Strike decks. For playing a game Line Strike, you need to select 15 cards from amongst those. Before playing a game of Line Strike, you need to select 15 cards from among those Why can't I read this sentence? Before playing a game of Line Strike, you'll need to select 15 cards from among those you own to create a deck. Not sure why that was so difficult for me to read. To edit your deck, open the main menu, go to Communications and Line Strike, and then Edit Deck List. You may save up to 10 decks per ship. You'll need 15 cards to build a deck. You may include up to 3 of the same card in each deck. Both normal and foil versions of the same card count towards this limit, so you can't use like 3 foils and then 3 normals of the same card. And then, of course, Line Strike battle formats. Play Line Strike by opening the main menu, selecting Communications, and Line Strike. Each game can only be played. The game can only be played in arc spaces and the creative spaces. However, the rules in each location differ. Playable only in arc spaces. Ranked battle match. Okay, so these are pretty self-explanatory. It's ranked battles or ranked matches where you get matched against people of your same skill level. I think you have to play like 1 or 2 matches before you actually get a rating. Unranked matches have nothing to do with your actual skill level, so you just match against other players. NPCs are against NPCs in general, and then free battles you can play against other players as you choose. Free battles you can't gain cards, I believe. It's only with every other type of battle type. That's pretty much it. And then of course talk about the card scratch ticket system. So good stuff there. All right, cool. I'm gonna go through a match with you guys here and show you kind of how it goes. I hit creative space, Line Strike. Here we go. Let's do an NPC battle because we're bad. We'll do against. We'll probably lose the NPC. So let's do beginner just so I can show off some stuff. Also, it's come to my attention that people sometimes hang out in my chat while I'm offline. So if you see a random chat pop up, that's it's because I haven't turned that off and I don't plan to. All right, we're gonna use the default deck because I have not sat down to edit a deck yet, but we will eventually. And then we can see the cards we have here. I mean, we have no low cost cards really, so it's gonna make it kind of hard. Let's redraw the hand. And then I think we ended up with worse, so that sucks. Not really a whole lot for us to do here. So we're just going to toss out a card. So when you're starting, the nice thing about NPC battle also is that you're not time limited at all. NPCs are not going to time limit you, but normally when you're playing against another player, there's a time limit that starts to go down. You have to make sure you make your move in that time frame or it skips your turn. Essentially, if you want to place on a card, you can just select the spot and then select the card you want to place down. You have to have the amount of PP to use that card itself. And as you can see, we have 2 5-cost cards that we can't use, but 3 cards that we can. So we've got this Arcs member Adderley. She moves this back card here to the left. I'm not really worried about that. There's no one there yet. So we're just going to toss down just Laborer with no skill and end our turn. We could have undone that if we wanted to. We get our PP back if that's the case. They place 2 cards down. They buff their ally. They buff each other, actually, funny enough, but still not strong enough to override ours. So we then, of course, take that winning trade. So since we have more points than them, we get a point on them. We had nothing here. They get a point on us. Again, we really don't have much to work with here. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out here. Now, part of the reason why I'm putting these cards here is because I know I have a buff card that's a single cost that buffs these 2 lines specifically. And this is only costing us 2 points. So this is actually going to allow us to save points. Ooh, that's painful. And it buffs all those cards too. Okay, well, they buff that front slide. Hit us with 2. Hit them with 1. All right, cool. So now we can start making a few plays. So this is an ice card. What we can do here is we can over summon Maria. And then we can also summon, was it Lunica? Lasuna? I'm bad at names, dude. Don't even ask. Just it's best if you don't even ask, honestly. We could summon Arx Adderley over this, which I think we might. It's just more damage over. No, you know what? We'll just wait. We'll see what happens. So they overwrite, but we're going to get a bit of a buff, and we're also going to nerf those cards there specifically. So we're still going to get a point here and 2 points here. We have 4 now, so what else can we do? Well, we have another one of our buff cards, our single cost. It's 4. So what we can do actually is we're going to throw down Hitsugi here, which is going to buff our middle card. We could have gone for game, honestly, but I'm just going to drag this out just so we can. Could have gone close for game, but I'm going to drag this out as much as possible. Okay, well, they're buffing allies. We still are ahead in our middle, but they go ahead on the right. So we take 2 points of damage. We have a 3. What can we do? 3 points. We can replace this card here, or we could just add another card over it, which would give us 3 points. We don't need to actually add a card since we only need 2 damage here overall. But this would be overall more So we can either add a card here, which wouldn't move anything, which is fine. Just give us plus 14, which is more overall. Or we can replace this and then give us a buff, which I think overall is weaker. So the better play is to add a card. If they add a card here, that gets them 3 and then they get to break. That's also a concern. If I do nothing about that, they break here. If they go here, they break here. So we don't know what the AI is going to do, so we just kind of have to... There might have been a better play there, but we just have to see what they decide to go with. Okay, so they do decide to challenge. They upgrade as well. So yeah, no, they still take the right. They still take 1 point either side of there, but they take that. We don't have to really invest anything too crazy there, so it's fine. 3 points. Let's go ahead. They have to stop us here or they lose. They get broken. They would put a card here. They'd do 3 and they'd break us and win. So we should put something fairly strong up here, actually. I have noticed they've hit this slot a lot, so I'm not going to put anything too powerful here. We're going to put Xeno here. We can't overwrite her with the same cost, unfortunately. Sucks that you can't do that. It'd be nice if you could, because I would overwrite her and then buff my middle card again, but that is fine. We'll leave that as is. Yeah. So we get the break here. We maintain. And best thing we could probably do is throw another Xeno down. Yeah, that's going to move a card, which would do nothing. We'll throw another Xeno. Not really much else to do with the cards we have. Yeah, that didn't do anything, so we win. But that's pretty much it when it comes to line strike. I mean, the other things that could have really happened here you have to kind of keep an eye out for are move cards. Move cards are kind of crazy. They actually are really, really nice. The disruption. So they would move a card over to another lane, and the usefulness there is that whenever you have a lane that's completely broken, right? So like I have these 3 cards here. These 3 cards now are completely useless for me. Even if I were to place a card here, they're not doing anything other than like adding their passive bonuses, right? So you notice that the AI posted some cards here, but it didn't really do anything for them. Like it gave them some buffs here, like this card buffed these 2 cards here, but like that didn't really do much for them because they were already broken middle, right? And then they placed a card down here, but they've already broken me on the right. So that doesn't really help out too much. So those displacement cards, the move cards, are really, really nice in the case of like, hey, maybe you have a powerful card here. Let's throw that card over to a lane that is actually active right now that would help you win the match overall, as opposed to like just kind of sitting there. There's also situations where you can use that against yourself or against the enemy. I say against yourself because I've accidentally put a card down. If you guys are watching some of the other matches, I put a card down that moved a powerful card into a lane that I needed to win and ultimately cost me the game because I wasn't paying attention. So be very careful of the cards you place down because you can also end up screwing yourself over overall. But that's mostly it when it comes to Line Strike. It's a very simple game mode. It's nothing that's too crazy or overly complicated. However, you can play some pretty crazy strategies where some people will go with like a full court. Well, they'll play low cost cards across the board, but those low cost cards are buffing each other a little bit. So they have a decent amount of like damage overall, and they're getting you pressure in like multiple lanes just to see where you're going to place like, your defenses and then completely counter that defense by putting a press in a completely different lane. There's also strategies I've seen where people will put like hardcore pressure in a specific lane and then have cards that specifically move cards out of another lane and then move their card into that lane specifically. So that way they can take down multiple lanes where you can be overrun almost instantly, right? Like if someone were to put down 3 cards in one lane and you weren't prepared for it, they would just take 3 points off of one of your towers immediately. And you may have gotten like 1 or 2 off of them. So it's a lot of interesting strategies that you can put together with a very, very simple overall game mode to understand. I do want to see what people put together as far as decks are concerned. My brain is far too small to be able to put together great decks. So I probably will be grabbing someone's cookie cutter deck of some sort to learn to play and then play that style of deck. I'm actually really want to put together a dark deck. Dark looks really cool and it has Persona, so I'm really happy about that. I'm a big fan of Persona. So I do want to see a decent dark deck put together. So if that's your jam, by all means, hey, maybe that's the niche of content that you put together when it comes to PSO2 space, or maybe you jump into Discord and show us all the wonderful things you can do. I would love to play test and showcase some of the decks in future videos once I understand them and learn how to play with them, and then showcase some of the strategies with people. So yeah, looking forward to it. But that's pretty much it when it comes to Line Strike. Hopefully I explained the game mode enough that you guys will be able to jump into it if you just personally weren't like, I don't know, sometimes just reading through stuff yourself just doesn't really click the same way. You have to kind of see it. If there's anything I missed, feel free to toss in the comments below. Let me know what decks you guys are running, what strategies you guys have picked up, what broken thing you found, because I'm sure there is like some solved meta that exists. There always will be, there always is. So just be prepared for it, learn how to counter it because it's going to be a thing. Learn to metagame, learn to mess with your opponents because it's a lot of fun. It is super fun. There's a lot of people that really take into it. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Do all the cool YouTube things, like if you enjoyed, sub if you want to keep up with more. Channel members, you guys are fantastic and I love your faces. I'll take care. Take care, my friends. I can't do outros. I still can't do outros. Peace out, guys.